Here we are, Ironman 70.3 European Champs race report. And I've got a pretty tight turnaround now because I'm doing 70.3 Swansea this coming weekend. So, fairly tight turnaround. Hopefully the body feels good, but we're not talking about Swansea in this video. We are talking about Jönköping. Whether I'm pronouncing that right or not, please let me know in the comment section below. Jönköping, no idea. Anyway, what a cool place, first of all. I think, yeah, Sweden is, first time I've been to Sweden, seems really, really lovely. Really, really cool place. I've got to say the accommodation was great, the people were lovely, the roads were great, everything was really, really nice. So I would definitely recommend that race. Thanks to Ironman for putting on an amazing race, and thanks to the people of Jönköping for coming out and supporting and creating an amazing atmosphere. And thanks so much to everyone out there who was in person supporting me directly, and also on social media supporting me. I do really, really appreciate it, and it does help out a lot. So thank you so much for that. Now let's get started with the race, because fourth place is one of those really frustrating positions where it's a good result, so I can't be too annoyed, but it's not on the podium, and I also definitely feel like I made a very big tactical error that led me to not getting on the podium. And I'm fairly certain, and obviously I can't be 100% certain, but I'm fairly confident that if I had made a better tactical decision on the bike, then I would have got on the podium. However, it's obviously easy to say that in hindsight, so potentially maybe I wouldn't have done, but I did make a tactical error, and I think that led to me slipping off the podium. Do I think I would have been able to win it? Probably not, because the guy who won it was a shit hot runner, and I don't think I necessarily gave him the respect that I don't think I clocked on to him actually in the race being probably the best runner in the field, and so that was maybe next time I need to do my homework a little bit better. But yeah, because he's an insane runner. But it was cool, like coming fourth is great. 2.5 minutes, I guess, off the win. I think it was 2.5 minutes. And I was maybe like 30 seconds back from third. So it's really close racing. And yeah, my immediate reaction is frustration at myself. But we'll go into that. So essentially the day starts, and it's a 9 o'clock start, which is dreamy. I wish every single 70.3 started at 9 o'clock. It was so much nicer, so much more chilled. So we get a 10-minute warm up as pros, and I got in and I felt average. I can't say I felt amazing, but I also didn't feel completely useless. So it was okay. I went through the motions, did a little warm up, did a few surges, and then we're called into the water. Now, it's a very straightforward swim. It's literally out, along a little bit, and straight back. It's just a big rectangle. So there's a long way to go before you get to the first turn buoy. And that generally means that things stay together a little bit more. However, I still knew that the start was going to be fairly aggressive. Now, I positioned myself in the middle of the two starting buoys. So I was right in the middle of the pack. Whether that was a good decision or not, I'm not too sure. I think there were some really good swimmers off to the left. So you had Jack Hutchins, you had Hans Butters, you had a few other guys. But I was positioning myself kind of 2 people along from Sam Dicko, who I also know is obviously an incredible swimmer. So I thought I was in good company. However, being in the middle does mean that maybe you do get beaten up a little bit more, but I figured, I just get my elbows out, hold my space, and hopefully it'll be good. So the gun went, or the cannon went, an actual cannon, which was bloody loud. And immediately the pace is on, but I was like, cool, just hold it, and it will ease off a little bit. It just didn't really ease off that much, and I think I was just redlining it for just a little bit too long. If it eased off a little bit earlier, then I could have, I think, maintained contact with that front group. And then even if it surged on, I feel like I could have recovered a little bit. But essentially what happened was I got gapped ever so slightly, and I was redlining it, trying to get back on that group. And I could see I was holding the gap, and then it went off again and it opened up again. And I think that was because essentially I was at my limit, And those guys had eased off maybe a little bit and then they went again. Whereas if it eased off maybe a little bit earlier, I'd been able to hold contact with that group. So essentially I got separated from that group, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is. End up actually getting out the swim with literally right next to Jack Hutchins, Hans Butters as well. So I think he was probably pretty disappointed with that swim because he is one of, if not the best long course swimmer out there. He's absolutely insane. And I think we come out 45 seconds back from the lead. So it's not a bad swim by any means. I think within 45 seconds for me is pretty good. I would love to get that deficit, sub 30 seconds against really, really good swimmers. And so fingers crossed for this weekend in Swansea. The course in Swansea is a little bit more technical, which I potentially think could suit me a little bit better because it does, it does kind of string things out a little bit. And it does mean that a lot of people kind of fill the gaps, if that makes sense. But yeah, again, we'll see what happens in Swansea this weekend. So anyway, it's a fairly long run to T1, maybe 500 meters. And Jack is going full gas. He always absolutely rips it to T1. So I was on the limit getting into T1. And unfortunately, actually my transition, my racking point got moved. Essentially, being number one or being the highest ranked male, I was closest to the exit of T1, essentially, or the exit of transition, and then the entry, the closest to entry on T2. But because of all the rainfall, basically my area was completely flooded, and they had little kind of tubs or buckets to put your things in, drop your wetsuits, your trainers, stuff like that. But my bucket would have just floated away because it was so deep. So they actually moved my transition point to essentially being the lowest ranked athlete, or the highest ranked, the lowest ranked athlete, so essentially the worst athlete. So my bike was the first bike there in T1, which is great because I know exactly where it is, but it's kind of frustrating because then I've got to run further with my bike in T1 and in T2. So it was like, that was a little bit annoying. Not saying that was the reason that, I didn't get on the podium, because I think there's a few seconds in it. Running with your bike is a little bit more irritating, but I don't think it causes too much hassle. So anyway, I get on the bike and I'm with good company. I've got Jack and I got Hans Butters with me. And we're working fairly well. And I knew that there was a climb within the first maybe 5K. And I knew that people would be going pretty well up there. I also heard that Robert Callan got out of the swim literally just behind me. So I knew full well that he was going to be absolutely motoring his way to the front. And I figured it would be easier for me to maintain contact with him once I'd got over the harder, more technical sections. So the first maybe 20k of the bike is fairly, it's not punchy by any means, it's rolling and it's fairly technical. So I figured what I need to do is ride pretty hard through that section. Then after that section, it's fairly straight roads, it's fairly simple. If he comes through there, that's going to be a lot easier for me to maintain contact with him. So essentially that's what I did. I moved to the front of the group, our little group, up the climb. I worked pretty hard. I think maybe 20 minutes in, my normalized power was 300 and it was high 350s, maybe 360 watts for the first 20 minutes. And Robert Callan then comes through. Towards the end, I've still got a little bit more of this technical section, and he actually comes through as I'm sort of at the bottom of this climb, this little kicker. It's probably only a 30-second climb, but he comes through like an absolute rocket, and I'm like, oh, bloody hell, here we go. But I knew full well that he was my ticket to the front of the race. So I was like, I cannot let him go, because if I let him go, he'll get to the front and then he'll just pull everyone else along and the race will get away from me. So I have to commit. I've already committed for 20 minutes. I'm already pretty tired. And he's just come through like an absolute steam train and he's gapped me already. And I'm like, well, here we go. So I put my big boy pants on, I get my head down, and it maybe takes me a few minutes to get to kind of, that 15, 12 meter gap behind him. And I worked so bloody hard. We then do a little section that's like an out and back on the bike. which was really good because we could see the group in front of us. It was maybe a group of 8 people, included people like Sam Dicko, the other boys on the podium, and a few other lads. And they were maybe 40 seconds in front of us, I would assume. We then do a turnaround. Robert absolutely rails it out of this 180-degree turn. I mean, like, absolutely rails it. I was like, whoa, here we go. Okay, max effort sprint, let's go. Still maintain good contact with him. He's riding so smooth, it's unreal. We then make contact with the group, and this is where I believe I made a critical tactical error that potentially, like I said, potentially cost me a podium position. So here it is. We make contact with the back of this group, and immediately the pace slows off quite a lot. It's natural that a bigger group just doesn't work. It depends who's in the group and whether people are willing to work, but I think people maybe weren't that keen on working. They could see us catching from behind, so they weren't really working that well together. So the pace immediately slows off when Robert and I make contact with this group. I've got Hans Butters behind me. He's also in contact with us as well. And it's immediately, my mindset is, okay, perfect time to refuel and get ready for the next surge, because I know that the next surge is coming. And Robert was doing exactly the same. He was refueling, grabbing bottle, whatever. What I should have done, which I didn't do, but what I should have done is straight after fueling, I should have jumped past everyone before Robert Callan did, got on the front and waited for him to come through, because there's a guarantee that he would come through. However, what I stupidly did was, I think my mindset was, oh, well, Robert's such a good cyclist, I'll just let him go to the front and I'll kind of follow his move. Why I thought that, I don't know. It's a really stupid idea. Because essentially, that's what happened. Robert, after, I don't know, a minute or so of refueling, refocusing, he went past 8 guys, hit the front, and hit the front very, very hard. That is why that was a mistake for me, because the pace suddenly went up, but I could also see that Robert, early on in that move, had already created a gap at the front, and I was like, shit, I'm like 8 or 9 guys back here. Like, this is not a good position to be in. One, because if they drop off Callan, then I can't do anything. 2, because even if they maintain contact with Callan, the kind of yo-yo effect on the back, it's just super surgy, and it's really shit. So I then was like, right, I'm going to get to the front. I'm going to close that gap to Callan. The problem was that obviously the pace had gone up massively. From when we got contact with them, it was fairly simple. I could have got to the front fairly easily. But when Callan was on the front, the pace was up there. And so I had to ride past 8 or 9 guys in one go, because they were all, to be fair, riding fairly, like it looked like everyone was sort of 12-ish meters behind. But so I couldn't slot in anywhere. So I had 8 or 9 guys to ride past who are trying to chase Callan. I had the head referee to my left-hand side. So I was like, even if I wanted to slot in, which I wouldn't want to anyway, because it's obviously unfair and it's well, against the rules. I've got the referee here anyway, so he'll completely disqualify me if I do anything stupid. And I've got 25 seconds to pass each individual athlete. And so I'm literally in the bars. I am like chewing on my Garmin. I'm just like, come on. And he must have been absolutely pissing himself, the head referee. He must have been looking at me like, what is this guy doing? I set a new 90-second power PB as well. I think it was 515, 520 watts for 90 seconds just to get to the front of that group. The problem is, the person at the front of that group had already let the gap go to Callan. So I guess good in some sense, because I could slot in front of him because there was a sizable gap to Callan. Bad because I then got to the front and then I was like, shit, there's a gap to Callan. I've just done a massive surge to the front. I'm second guy on the road and now I need to bridge up to Callan. And that effort stung me so much, and I tried and I tried and I tried, and I just could not close the gap to Callan. And maybe like 10, 15 minutes later, I was just like, I'm going to absolutely muller myself here if I keep attempting to close the gap. So I then reassessed the situation. I was like, right, Callan's gone. Let's try and lose as little time as possible to him and refocus. So essentially, that was my fuck up of the day, because if I had leapfrogged the group before Callan, I'm just making assumptions here, but Callan would have come through, hit the front. I would have been able to ride with him, having not put in a massive 90-second power PB, and I think we would have been able to create a gap between us and the guys behind. Could have come into T2 a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a buffer, and potentially if I had the similar sort of run, or maybe a bit quicker because I didn't put in as much effort on the bike, then would I have got a better time, and would I have got a better position and been on the podium? I don't know. It's just all hypothetical. However, I do believe that tactical error on my part was really stupid, and it did cost me the race. And this is the thing, like in pro racing, like you make decisions so quickly, and sometimes they're good decisions and sometimes they're terrible decisions. And this is where, like, I mean, I've learned from it now. I now know that if I'm in that position in the future, I am going to get on the front a lot quicker before the bigger, like more powerful riders can get on the front. And it means that then I wouldn't be in a position where I need to get around so many guys and put myself in the absolute bin. But anyway, that's the situation that we're in. So Callan's up the road. We're halfway around the bike course. And I'm on the front just riding really good power. Power that I think I can sustain for the whole thing, but also really good power. Like the legs were great. I think at halfway my normalized was 355. Towards the end, it did taper off a little bit. It was a little bit frustrating that I had just 8 guys on my wheel, and there were multiple times when I actually sat up, I literally floated for a little bit and I waved guys through and no one came through, and that was now I think about it, I'm like, well, yeah, it's not against the rules to do that. But in the moment, I was getting so pissed off because I was like, guys, I'm literally dragging you all around. Like, come and do some work on the front. There was one lad who came to the front and did a turn. And fair play to him for coming through and doing a turn. But everyone else just sat in. And I was like, oh, man, like, this is so annoying. I know it's not against the rules, but I was just like, guys, come on. Like, it's not a running race. And I know full well why the guys did it, because, well, three of the guys who were in the pack beat me on the run. So it's like, yeah, there's not much you can do. If guys want to save their legs for the run, they want to save their legs. And actually, in some sense, it's up to me to get better on the bike so that I can actually get away. And I think maybe, yeah, if I didn't do that stupid surge to get to the front, blah, 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 would I have been able to get away? Maybe. But it's up to me now. I want to get even stronger on the bike so that I can break up those packs. So I just sat on the front for pretty much the last, probably 50k, maybe a bit longer. And then, because also my thought process is, I don't know how good of a runner Callan is. And this is where maybe I need to do my homework as well. Because I was like, if Callan runs a 112, maybe 113, we can't ease off too much. Like, we can't fanny about too much. We can't play these little tactical games. We still need to maintain contact. Otherwise, he'll just ride away from us. So I didn't know how good of a runner he was. So actually, we definitely could have given him more time. So I could have been a bit more... I could have literally just stopped pedaling and been like, right, someone get on the front. But I didn't know how good of a runner Callan was, and I just didn't want to race for second place. Like, this is the problem. When you try and race for the win, you actually sometimes, you fall short sometimes because you're trying so hard to maintain contact with the front and not let people get away that guys behind just get a free ride and then they're fresh for the run. So it was a very frustrating period, especially the last 30k, when I just felt like I really wanted some help on the front to maintain the speed and no one was willing to come through. But yeah, Anyway, it is what it is. I come into T2 and again, my T2 is a little bit slow, but I also did have to run a lot further with my bike than everyone else. So I kind of blame it on that. Come out of T2 and everyone is running like absolute lightning. I mean, I was literally, I actually didn't have GPS at that point, so my watch wasn't really working properly, but I was like, this feels like 320-ish, maybe quicker, 318s, and I'm getting dropped like a sack of shit here. And like, I was like, wow, if these guys can keep this up, fair play. But also I was like, I kind of feel like I'm going to see a few of these guys a little bit later on in the race. So I just settled in. The legs weren't feeling amazing. They're actually feeling, to be honest with you, quite heavy after that bike. I think my normalized power ended on 340, something like that. So pretty good. And yeah, it took me a little bit of time to get my body into the run and to start picking some people off. There was a really good Italian lad, I don't know his name, but he came second in 70.3 Nice, and I pretty much ran with him for the first lap. We ran literally shoulder to shoulder for the whole thing. That was actually really nice because he was setting a great pace. We kind of worked quite well with each other. There was a bit of a headwind section where we were both taking some turns, and it was just really good. After that first lap, I was like, right, time to really knuckle down. I'm going to try and squeeze everything I possibly can out of myself. As we start the second lap, I see that Dicko is coming back to me, and I was like, right, yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect. we're getting close to the podium here. Let's go. At 16k, I'd literally closed the gap to the podium, and I was literally running with Dicko and the lad who came third. Do apologise, I actually don't know his name. You know, we had the cyclist, we had the lead, you know, the second male cyclist, third male cyclist. It was me, those two lads. And something just happened where I think it was Dicko like surged onto the guy's heels in front, and I just couldn't close the gap, and their pace just slowly cranked up, and I don't think I necessarily slowed down, but there was no way I could speed up. I was trying so hard, and I was like, I cannot run any harder right now. My legs feel like absolute lead. I've got 5k left to go, and these guys are just cranking the pace. And it was like, I could literally taste second place. I was like, I reckon I can beat these guys. I can literally get second place. And within 10 seconds, they were gapping me, and they were just running off into the distance. And I was like, oh, shit. Like, there's nothing I can do. Like, I tried to respond. I tried everything. I got my gels in. I started to refuel. I was like, okay, maybe they're going too hard. I'm just going to keep the pace, and maybe they'll blow up in the last few K. And they just didn't. They just kept accelerating. Fair play to them, because they played it very tactically. They just kept accelerating, and I was like, there's nothing I can do. Like, and then I was like, right, this is just a fight for fourth. In the final few K, I knew I wouldn't catch them. So I was like, I just need to solidify this fourth place. So crossing the line, I was a bit like, very much mixed emotions, like happy for fourth, you know, a European champs, really cool. Irritated that no one really did much work on the bike, and irritated that I was so close to literally second place, literally the podium. It was right there, I could taste it, and it ran away from me. So yeah, all in all, it was a really good race, and I really enjoyed it. But like I said, a few tactical errors on my part, I believe, led to me not having the result that I necessarily would have wanted. But it is what it is. That's racing. You know, like I said, like, I raced for the win. I believe that I could have won before the race. Now looking back, I don't think the win was actually something that necessarily I could have gone for. I believe second and third was definitely, in hindsight, like, achievable if I played my cards right. But yeah, that's pro racing. You know, you race for the win, and sometimes you get it, and sometimes you fall flat on your face. And fourth obviously isn't completely falling flat on your face, but yeah, it's one of those. And now we got Swansea this weekend. So I am defending champ. It's now Pro Series, so it's going to be a lot more, a lot harder competition this weekend, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I believe that my fitness is in a really good place. And actually, I believe that this course will suit me better. It will mean that there's less opportunity for people to sit in on the bike because it's just a really tough bike course and you don't really get much benefit from sitting in. So I think it should play to my advantages, hopefully, if I navigate the next few days properly. And yeah, so I hope to see a lot of you there. If you're racing, good luck with the final few days of prep. And yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, guys.